welcome in. It is Sunday. Pardon for the wonky camera. I'll get to that in just a second. But yes, welcome. It is indeed 10 a.m. here in this rainy part of Ontario, because we had time changes last night. Yeah, exactly. DST Amjerk. Exactly. Yeah, so there was a time change last night. So we are indeed an hour earlier. D&D recap will still be about an hour from now. So, like, I guess set an alarm if you need to. But that is the plan. And, yeah. Kitsune subscribed for the 45th month. No, for the 46th month. Thank you. Gosh. That's so many months. That is like a preposterous amount of months. Where was I? Okay, I'm here. But yeah, so we've actually been making real progress on this blanket. So you can see we've got a good chunk of the Crest of Reliability. We're actually, this next row, gonna start the crossbeam for it. We actually have... Music is coming across louder than me. Okay, let's see here. Right, because the last time I streamed I was playing Pokemon, so I had turned the background volume up. Thank you, Yak. Hopefully that's a little bit better. You might need to adjust your device volume slightly, but hopefully the balance is a bit better now. So yeah, I'm slightly behind where I was hoping to be in this blanket. Well, not really behind, like I'm still in really good shape. However, you'll notice, so here, this is the first row of what's going to be the Digivice, the very bottom edge of the Digivice. And I had ordered this yarn and the other like 3 colors that I need for the Digivice 2 weeks ago, and they were shipped and supposed to be out for delivery, and I got home and there was a notice from Purolator on my door saying that, hey, we tried to deliver your package but you weren't here, so we took it to this random holding center that's 3/4 of the way across the city. We were like, well, crap. Because A, I didn't realize it was going to be shipped via Purolator in the first place. And B, there's a Purolator holding area that's much closer and easier for us to get to. But I guess just based on vibes, or more likely based on that individual driver's schedule, they decided they were going to take it halfway across the city instead. So that was a pain. So Kara called them, because I was at work the next day. Kara called them and was like, hey, can we schedule this for re-delivery on a day when somebody will be home to receive it? Because apparently they also wanted a signature, despite it being yarn. And the Purolator customer support was like, yep, no problem, we'll get this rescheduled. And then for like 2 days, it didn't, well, so it moved. We watched, because we were watching the tracking number. It moved from that holding facility halfway across the city, which was one of those like retail storefronts that just like has a Purolator counter in it. It moved from there to like an actual Purolator depot, like one of their whole, like actual Purolator owned holding centers, that was also halfway across the city in a different direction. And then it didn't move for 3 days. And we were like, come on. And we were just about to ask a friend if they could, like, drive us out there so we could actually just pick up the package from the depot, when finally the tracking number changed to be like, delivery rescheduled. Or I guess delivery rescheduling request received, or like something odd like that. And then 2 days after that, we finally got the yarn. So I could have been further ahead on this. But also, I have been taking breaks from this to work on a baby blanket. I have a really good friend whose first baby is due in April. So I've been working on a blanket for them, which I wasn't planning to hand sew it, but it looks a lot nicer hand sewn. So I guess I'm hand sewing it. But that one, again, that one's a baby blanket, so it is coming along nicely. My goal is to have that complete for her baby shower on April 4th. We'll see if I actually get there or not. Traditionally, I tend to deliver baby quilts on, like, the baby's first birthday instead, but I'm hoping this time I can actually be better about that. Since there is a baby shower that I can actually get to and attend. Unlike most of my other baby blankets, which need to be mailed. And at least now, Purolator graciously, because I signed a form, Purolator has graciously given us a little sticker to put, like, in our front window or on the door that's like, yes, we have approved Purolator to leave things here without a signature. Because I guess Purolator just blanket wants a signature for everything now? And again, I had no idea that Michaels was going to ship through Purolator. That was a pain. But I have the yarn now, and that's what matters. FedEx does the same thing to you? Yeah. We don't... We have FedEx up here, but I don't know that I've ever seen anyone use FedEx. Around here, UPS, Purolator, and DHL are the more common couriers if you're not just going to ship something Canada Post. I don't know. Yeah, like, I think I've seen FedEx around, but now I'm not even sure FedEx operates in this area. They'd have to, though, right? At least for delivery. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see them nearly as often as I see the other three. There we go. Guess I should probably. I should probably have my pattern up. Alright, blanket. I have to come this way. Eh. Yes. Thank you. There we go. This turn strand needs to go that way. There we go. Alright, that's slightly better. Still a pile of yarn tangles, but slightly better. Ooh, gonna try plying on the new spinning wheel. Excellent. Good luck. I look forward to seeing the results. This. You can tell this is one of my favorite crochet hooks. Probably not showing up on camera. But you can tell I use this crochet hook all the time because right at the tip where it pushes through the yarn, the blue coating is wearing off the aluminum. That's kind of funny. It, drop it. Let's do a little bit of an experiment here. I'm wondering feasibly how close I can get with this camera. I've been toying with the idea of doing like ultra close-up stitching videos for YouTube, but I don't know if this camera can actually handle that without like completely freaking out or just not having the focus needed. And I don't know if that's something I can like play with in the settings or if this camera is just too cheap to achieve that. It might just be that this camera is too cheap to achieve that, which is fine. Good morning, Merlin. Welcome to the new time zone, I guess. You guys do daylight savings? I don't remember if your time zone is one, or your area is one that does it or not. It does? Yeah. My alarm went off this morning, and I poked it, and I got very confused. I was like, why does my sleep app say I only slept for 8 hours? I did not stay up until 1 a.m. And then I was like, oh yeah. Didn't sleep? Oh no. I'm sorry to hear that, Merlin. Hope you are able to take a nap later today. Am I carrying this yarn over? Great. This is gonna take some counting. this edge. Makes no sense. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Oh, no, okay. Three. And one. One. One, two. Okay. 3, 4. 1. Two. And 5. Okay, so I've counted everything correct. Carry the blueprint over. One further than the previous row. All right. See, this is what you get from a crochet stream. Just muttered numbers. Muttered numbers and muttered swearing. Seems right. Apologies for any noises that are coming through. Kara's moving around on the other side of the wall that the microphone is sat next. Coffee. Also need to do certification for your work since you don't have time to during the workday to do it. Are they paying you this time that you're taking now to do it? Because they should be. If you don't have time during your workday to do it, they should be paying your time. Or they should be making time during your workday for you to do it. Daylight savings time? Yeah. Welcome in, Randus. Welcome to the new time zone, where we are even more totally awake than usual. Definitely. Oh, okay, fair enough. Congratulations on the promotion, Merlin. Yeah, if it's something you're doing on your your own initiative, that's different. I was thinking when you said certification, I was thinking of like a thing that is required for you to do your job. Like, I don't know, health and safety certification or something. If it's something that is required for you to do your job, your employer should be paying for you to do it. But if it's like something optional that you're choosing to take on, that's a different matter. Oof. Yeah, yay promotion, boo more work indeed. I wish you luck, Merlin. Okay, at least they are working on getting you some help. Hopefully that goes through quickly. Yeah, that actually sounds a little bit like my job. I have a part-timer that helps me with basically daily routine tasks so that I can focus on like the rest of the stuff. I could theoretically, like if our part-timer left, I could theoretically take on everything that she does. It is all part of my role and within the scope of my job, but it would mean that I was somewhat overworked. Oof, yeah. Having a senior member leave suddenly is never fantastic. Especially because the work don't stop. They'll all gotta get done somehow. Yarn, what are you doing? Why? Why are you like this? Okay, slightly better. Ah, yes, I hear the beepy sounds of Kara resetting the time on the microwave. Probably the stove. This one I'm carrying. Yeah, you'll note that this pink yarn I've chosen is notably bulkier. Well, you might not be able to see it super well, but it is noticeably bulkier than the other two, which is actually, it's working out well, making a really interesting texture contrast. I picked it because the color for it is perfect, and it's not that much bulkier. Like, it's not so bulky that it's making it warp, especially since it's being used over such a small area, but it is creating a really interesting texture. Interesting in a good way. thank you, Merlin. I don't necessarily do anything special. I have been doing this for cough cough probably, okay, hang on, let me actually do math. At least 25 years. Actually, almost exactly 25 years, because I was roughly, I think, 11 or 12 when I started learning. And besides the initial, like, okay, here is yarn, here are some of the basic stitches, I've basically taught myself as far as, like, tensioning and everything. And I know for a fact I don't usually use the recommended hook. Like, when you see yarn, it'll have on the label, like, here's the recommended needle gauge for knitting and your recommended hook size for crochet. I almost never use the proper recommended hook size. I just kind of experiment and use what feels right. So, yeah. How I control my tension is really not something I can explain because I just kind of do it. But thank you very much. I appreciate the compliment. I know I'm also very weird in the fact that, okay, so when I have my hook and I'm ready, let me put it against the blanket so you can see, and I'm ready to, like, hook and pull back through, I'm very odd in the fact that, well, now I can't, like, I'll flip forward and pull it through like this. A lot of people will go around the back. So I know I'm strange in the way that I form some of my stitches. Again, probably because I mostly just taught myself. Beyond the initial of my best friend's grandmother, like, sitting us both down with scrap yarn and showing us the basics, I just kind of worked out the rest of it myself. As far as, like, here's how I hold my yarn, here's how I move the yarn, here's how I hold my hook. Like, some people will hold their hooks like this, and I don't know how they do that. This would kill my wrist. I have no idea how people do this. I have to hold mine like this. So, like, I'll hold mine underneath. But yeah, a lot of crochet is based on vibes. Like, you'll find sticklers who will tell you, like, no, this is the right way to do it. But, like, honestly, if a different way works better for you, do it your way. Like I said, as far as, like, holding your yarn, which fingers you loop it through, how you hold your hook, how you control your tension, like, that's all personal comfort. Figure out what works best for you. Yeah, exactly. Feeling things out for yourself is always the best way to learn. Oh, that's the other thing. So if when I do a yarn over, I'll flip and pull my yarn to the front. Again, I know a lot of other crocheters that'll just pull it through like this, which, again, I don't know how they do that. Because it feels like it's more difficult to keep your yarn separated that way, but that might just be me. But yeah, I've always just yarned over toward the front. I have a friend that can make, like, cotton tea towels and stuff without even looking at her yarn. Like, she'll be sitting there and she's so fast, like, her hands are just going, and it's incredible watching her. I don't know how she does that. I've never gotten that good. Granted, cotton yarn is very, like, the cotton yarn she uses for tea towels is very usually tightly plied. Like, with this yarn, This is a wool blend, so I'm having to watch when I put my hook through so that I don't split the strands. Whereas cotton yarn is a lot more solid, so you don't have to worry as much about splitting the various plies apart. Drop one more. But yeah, she's so fast at it. I don't know how. But again, she's been doing it for about as long as I have. Kind of skipped the single crochet at the beginning of last row. That's okay. Fix it now. Yeah. Cotton also has very little elasticity. That's the other thing about tension, is that you have to vary it based on what yarn you're using. Because wool, for instance, has a lot more stretch, a lot more elasticity to it than something like cotton. Alright, good. Time to flip the monster over. Again. Oh god. Alright, this is fine. Everything is fine. The yarn monster is fine. Bows. Aww. Bows. What a cute little Koopa we have in chat. Oh, coffee is brewing. Yay. I do appreciate a Koopa coffee. Ooh, it is time for soup. Excellent. It is also time for D&D recap. Just noticed the time. Due to the time change, it is in fact time for D&D recap. So when we left off, so last couple sessions have been a little mini arc where we were joining Light on their journey away from the main party as they traveled home to try to get help for the vampire tree that we found before it eats all of Neverwinter Woods. So we had explored that little side adventure with our alternate characters venturing into the Shadowfell to try to find a lost member of the Abbey. So we finished up that little arc. We all made it out of the Shadowfell. And Light has now rejoined the main party. So when we started session yesterday, we were picking back up with the main party arriving back in Phandalin, having slain the green dragon that was harassing the logging camp. And we dropped off the townmaster's brother that we had rescued with the townmaster, figuring he's probably the best person to nurse his brother back to health. And then we had all headed for the inn for dinner, and as we walked into the inn, we had seen a somewhat familiar shaped cloaked figure sitting by the fire, with a long fuzzy tail that was also very familiar hanging out from underneath the cloak. And they were flipping a button up and catching it like a coin. And before the Light left the party, Glint had given them a button as sort of a token good luck charm, and so that they would remember where to return to. So it is indeed Light. Light is flipping that button up and catching it as a way to sort of indicate, like, hey, I'm back. So, of course, Glint goes rocketing across the inn and, like, tackle hugs Light onto the table and is just like, Light, you're back. We were so worried about you. Where have you been? Are you okay? And Light was like, yeah, I'm back. And how's everything been here? And at about that point, a tiny squeaky little voice pipes up from the other side of Light, sort of almost down at ground level, of just like, dragon, they were fighting a dragon. And everyone kind of peers over, and it is the child of the local druid, so the little halfling boy that kind of hangs around town. His mother is the druid that works out at Alderley Farms, out on the edge of town. And as a reminder, she's the one who cast the resurrection spell on Gundred for us, to bring him back as a slime man. And so this is her little boy, who is, younger than 10. He's a kid. This tiny little halfling Hopido kid. And he is very excited to hear stories. So we kind of start to catch up. Our group and Light kind of start to catch up and exchange stories about where we've been and what we've seen. And this little kid is just fascinated and asking questions and clarifications. And, out of game, it's a good way for Randus to kind of subtly prod us of like, hey, you forgot about this thing. Or like, hey, you should probably tell Light about this thing. And at a certain point, along the trajectory of our storytelling, should I say. Oh, coffee, thank God.
Are we taught this child what a T-Rex is?
I'm just about to get there. Was that the good food?
Yes.
Okay.
He very much wanted us to pick up food.
That's what I was wondering. I was like, he was just very enthusiastic on the doorbell.
He really wanted us to have food.
Oh, good. Oh, thank God, coffee. Hang on. Yay. Okay. So as we're, recapping things and telling Light about our adventures, we happen to mention that, oh yeah, the dragon, while we were fighting the green dragon, it briefly turned into a T-Rex. And of course, the first question was like, wow, what's a T-Rex? Because, this kid is living in Faerun. He's never seen one before. So Glint obligingly creates a little, hand-sized illusion to be able to show this kid what a T-Rex is. But we were explaining to him, no, that this T-Rex they're much, much bigger, and they're really scary, and they have a lot of teeth. And it almost ate Marcella. And we kind of gesture back toward where we thought Marcella had followed us into the inn. And she's not behind us. Turns out she had followed us into the inn, but she had kind of wandered off to the side to talk to somebody else over at another table. Somebody that we kind of vaguely thought looked familiar, but we didn't really know. We had probably just seen them around town before. But anyway, Marcella's occupied. So Basil kind of starts wandering over to try to see what Marcella is talking to this person about, while the rest of us continue explaining T-Rexes to this little kid. And the kid was like, wow, so dragons can just turn into things? I didn't know that. And we explained to him that no, this was a spell to turn the dragon into a T-Rex. And, the spell was cast by a druid like your mother. And the kid's eyes got super big, and he was like, wait, you mean mommy could cast this spell? And we were all kind of like, theoretically, sure, she might be able to learn it. And of course, the kid's eyes got super huge, and he was like, wow. He's like, well, first he was just impressed. He was like, wow, my mommy's really powerful, isn't she? And we were like, yes, of course. And she was like, and the kid was like, oh, amazing. I'm gonna tell her to turn me into a T-Rex. And so he started just jumped down from his chair and started patting out of the inn while holding his arms up like little T-Rex arms, because we had sort of shown him that. And he started, stomping his way out of the inn going, I'm gonna be a T-Rex, I'm gonna be a T-Rex, I'm gonna be a T-Rex. And the rest of us kind of looked at each other and went, oh no, we're gonna have to send this poor druid a fruit basket, because this kid is going to harass her forever about turning him into a T-Rex. But it's every kid, or lots of kids have a dinosaur phase. This kid just didn't know what dinosaurs were until this exact moment, so he's packing his entire dinosaur phase into today. It's fine. It's definitely fine. This druid is definitely not going to blame us at all. But we should probably send her a fruit basket or something. So that was adorable. Adorable. Less adorable for the mother, but adorable, because it's not our kid. And at that point, Light got up and was kind of like, well, should we should, because when we were explaining things, since the kid was there, we had kind of glossed over some of the finer details and just given really simple explanations for things. Yes, exactly. Carp is a potat, so this is the tiniest little halfling child making T-Rex noises and stomping about, saying that they're gonna be a T-Rex. It's precious. So we had just kind of glossed over a lot of things and given like the simplest explanations. So Light was like, well, why don't let's retire back to the manse and we can catch up more thoroughly there. So we do. So the rest of us, head out of the inn and start walking back toward the manse. Basil stays behind, to kind of see what Marcella's doing. And, because Basil was mostly paying attention to the conversation we were having, he only caught like a little bit of what Marcella was talking about. Something about a job, and she's like maybe being threatened, kind of. Like, it's really hard to tell with the amount of the conversation that Basil is catching. So once the rest of us leave, Basil kind of turns all of his attention to Marcella and kind of steps closer and is like, so, what's going on over here? And at that point, the person that Marcella was talking to hurriedly gets up and is like, oh, well, I was just leaving. That concludes our business, and kind of gives Marcella a meaningful look, and heads out. So Basil sits down across from Marcella, and there's in fact a book that's sort of sitting open on the table. It's not like a printed book, it's like more like a notebook, and on the page that it's open to, there's some handwritten lines of like just some almost disjointed seeming words, but it seems very entrancing. Oh, it's a notebook of logic. Okay, that makes sense, because my joke was that it was poetry and that Marcella and Basil just didn't know what iambic pentameter was. But got it, it's math. Perfect. So Basil kind of looks at that for a minute and then looks at Marcella and is just kind of like, what's this? Or, what's going on? And so Marcella explains that she's been given an offer she can't refuse, essentially. She's been offered a prospect, offered a job, and, it was very strongly suggested that she should take this job, and she's going to take this job, whatever it may be. And Basil tries to reassure her, like, hey, if you're in trouble, you can tell me, right? Like, you don't have to do everything all on your own. And Marcella's like, yeah, I know where to find you. And Basil's like, okay, well, you would tell me if you were in trouble, right? And Marcella's kind of like, oh yeah, of course I would. This is fine. This is nothing. And tries to kind of brush it off, even though Basil still kind of has a bad feeling about whatever this is. And Marcella kind of nudges the notebook over toward him and goes, I think that you'll probably get a lot more use of this than any of us would. I don't know what it is. The person that brought it to me doesn't know what it is. So you take it. And if you can make heads or tails out of it, let us know. Logic puzzles that are illogical to those that have an int below 30 type of things. Ah, yes. So they chat for a couple minutes and then, get up to sort of walk Marcella back to her room so that she can kind of gather her things. And Basil kind of tries one last time of like, hey, you tell me if you need help and I'll come help. And Marcella's like, okay, yeah, I know that. I'll come and find you if I need you. And Basil's like, all right. And as they're saying, goodbye, Basil leans over to give Marcella a kiss on the cheek. And as he does, Watson takes great offense. And this, because reminder, Watson is currently in the form of a fey dragon that is just kind of sitting draped around Basil's shoulders. Watson takes great offense and bites Marcella on the ear. And Basil is just completely oblivious of like, Watson, no, why would you do that? We don't bite people. And Marcella is, kind of blushing a little bit from the kiss, but you can't really tell because she's got some lightning makeup on. And just got bit on the ear by a baby dragon. Or by a little fey dragon. And just kind of walks off in a bit of a daze, still kind of processing what just happened. Because, so hilariously, when Watson bit her, it did, I think, 4 points of piercing damage and a point of psychic damage. So, the tiny bit of psychic damage probably isn't helping with the confusion. So, she walks off and into the night. And we may or may not find her again. I kind of hope we do. I really liked, as much as I love Light, I actually really liked Marcella. I really liked Lash too. I kind of wish we could have all three of them in the party at once, because that would be great, but impossible for Kite to manage. So yeah, so that was Marcella's exit from the party to be able to facilitate Light to return. Because of course we're only gonna make Kite play one character at once. As funny as it would be to make it otherwise. So yeah, so after that, Basil, heads back to the manse to catch up with everybody else. And arrives just about at the time that Light is taking off their cloak. So that we can actually properly finally get a good look at Light's new form. Which isn't too different. They're still, mostly tabaxi shaped. Their eyes are still black. And all that's different is that the rat features are gone, so they no longer have like the rat whiskers and like the beginnings of rat teeth that they kind of had. And instead they have like a little bit of a hardened nub of a nose that's like, maybe kind of the start of a beak. And, little tiny wingies, like the shoulder blades are a bit too large for the body type, and there's like little, we've been calling them like Moogle wingies, like they're really small, just little, little Moogle wingies. Oh yes, and also, sort of as we're sort of settling in at the manse, Light points out, Light kind of makes comment on the various changes that have happened to the party composition since they were last with us. So we explained that Landon has temporarily / permanently left the party to keep vigil over Cristella's remains up in Thundertree, to be able to be on hand to renew the resting spell and make sure that she doesn't rise as a Dracolich until we can find a more permanent solution to that. So that's where Landon is. And we also have this new Drow lady. Well, not new to us, but new for Light. That, magically switches places with Teak Garn occasionally. And we sort of introduce Arendi out to Light. And Glint asks Arendiau, like, hey, yeah, why, that's, we've been distracted. I've never properly thought about it before. Why do you guys switch back and forth? And Arendiau reveals that the switching is whenever she wants it to happen, and whenever it's most convenient for her. I.e. most nights when she wants to sleep in a comfy bed in Ravnica and not sleep camped out with the rest of us. And, any other time that's super convenient for her. And Glint kind of goes, that's how does Teat Garn feel about that, though? And Arendial basically goes, well, I don't care, because he's just a dumb Boros flame fist, and his opinions don't matter to me, essentially. Which, sorry, which Glint is not super happy about, but she kind of holds her tongue for the moment and sort of mentally vows that the next time she sees Teat Garn, she'll talk to him and properly try to gauge his comfort and if there's anything we can do. Coffee. So we settle back in at the manse and more properly exchange stories with Light. More details about Light's trip to the Shadowfell. Light mentions, sort of offhand, that they were able to find their parents that are trapped in the Shadowfell, which makes Glint's ears perk up, and she's already kind of thinking like, ooh, rescue mission, but we should probably take care of the dragon first. But once the dragon is dealt with, maybe rescue mission? And we tell Light about the various fights with the dragons, and also everything that happened in Wave Echo Cave. The fact that we cleared it out, and that, well, so first off, that the black spider is dead, killed and replaced by his son. However, that son has now become a Drider, kind of, and we don't know where they are, but we've kind of been distracted by dragons, so TBD, put a pin in that. And also there was that sorcerer guy that had a beholder under his contract that like predated everything else, and we took care of that too. So Wave Echo Cave is like fully cleared out as far as we can tell, and Gundred and his brother and Lash are working to try to get it set up and running again. And at about that point in the story, Droop comes in. Droop, as a reminder, being the goblin that we rescued from Bugbear Servitude a long time ago, that's kind of been hanging around in town and performing various odd jobs and things. And he comes in and reveals to us that he's sort of been expanding a delivery business where he'll run deliveries for people back and forth and around and around. Yeah, exactly. The very ADHD conversation of spiders exist, just not in this campaign. And Glint exudes a 1 mile anti-spider aura. She thinks spiders are made up because she's never seen one, which is of course because Kara is in fact very arachnophobic, so there are no spiders in this game. Driders, however, are a different matter. Although this is like the drow scorpion. Dropian? Dropian. Sure, we'll go with Dropian. But Droop comes in, and he has a little pouch, like a little coin bag with him. And he's like, yeah, I've been expanding my delivery business, and I was asked to deliver this to you. So he hands the pouch to Phalar. And Glint is like, ooh, a delivery person. We should give them a tip. Because you always tip your delivery people. And so she scrounges around in her bag and finds a non-magical little gold ring with like a jewel set into it. And she gives that to Droop. And Droop's like, ooh, so who do you want me to deliver this to? And Glint's like, no, this is not a delivery. This is for you, Droop. And Droop kind of pauses, and you can see the little, like, hamster wheel in his head running really, really fast. And then Droop goes, Droop's delivery can deliver to Droop? And Glint's like, sure, if that's the way you want to think about it, yeah, this is for you. And Droop's like, oh my god, Droop's delivery can deliver to Droop. And Glint's like, hang on. Only deliver to Droop if the person tells you to deliver to Droop. And Droop's like, okay, Droop's delivery can deliver to Droop. And then turns around to, like, waddle out of the room while holding the ring in, like, both hands, like it's some kind of a sacred relic. And as he leaves, we just hear him kind of mutter, like, I'm gonna make a case for this. Like, he's so precious, but I'm afraid we might have just taught this goblin to steal. I'm sure that won't be a problem in the future. Droop's delivery service. I take things where you tell me and try not to die on the way. Spoken with 100% confidence and the biggest grin. Yes, perfect. Love it. So yeah, that was Droop's delivery. Hang on, I'm just gonna pause while I actually count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9. 3, 4, 8, 9. Okay, yes. 1, 2. One more. Okay. So Droop takes his ring and heads out. And then Phalar opens the pouch that was delivered to us. And inside is a bunch of gold coins and a couple gemstones, and then a scrap of paper. So he pulls out the paper to take a look at it. It is in Dwarvish, so quickly casts comprehend languages so that he can read it, because none of the rest of us read Dwarvish. Frankly, I would hire him for the honesty. Yeah, I love Droop. He's so good. I'm so glad the dragon didn't eat him either of the times they were in town. Yeah, so Phalar pulls out the note, and it turns out it is from, well, I mean, we could probably tell from the fact that it was in Dwarvish, but it is in fact from Gundred and his brother in Wave Echo Cave. And it basically just says, like, here's your payment for services rendered. Expect more in the future as we get up and running again. And then there's a little itemized list of 500 gold, 1 diamond that's worth 500 gold, and a ruby of the War Mage. With, you know, in parentheses beside it, we just made it. So that's exciting and cool that they actually have the Spellforge up and running enough to be able to make a magic gemstone. That's pretty dang cool. So Bram takes charge of the diamond. You know, just in case Revivify becomes a necessity at some point. Yeah, I don't know why that would be, but you know, just in case, better to have it than not have it. So Bram quickly takes charge of the diamond. The 500 gold goes into the party funds, and so does the ruby of the War Mage, because none of us are like grabbing at it immediately. One of us might take it up once we have some more time to evaluate our kits, kind of thing. But as Phalar kind of upends the pouch onto the table to see if there's anything else in it, there is in fact like a bit of a tink, tink, tink as something else that's not a coin sort of bounces out of the bottom of the bag. And Glint pounces on it and is like, ooh, what's this? This is an extra. And it's like a little lump of, like, not quite slag, but like a lump of like melted, it is melted metal, right, Randus? It's not like raw ore. My understanding was that it was like this little like knotted lump of like melted metal of some kind. And on the back of the note, flipping it over in a different handwriting, still in Dwarvish, but in a different handwriting, it says, you know, don't tell my brother, but I included this. Let us know if you figure out what it is. So it's like this little, it's like a lump of some sort of unknown metal of some kind. So that's interesting. We might figure out what that is in the future. Oh, it was a... Okay, so it was a raw ore. So it's not melted, it's not processed, it's a raw ore. Okay, perfect. That was... After session, I realized I couldn't remember which one it was. So yes, it is a raw ore. Presumably something that they found either while digging... Yeah, either while actively digging or just laying around in the mine that they don't recognize. So we've got this little lump of an unidentified ore that we can now attempt to figure out what it is. Amazingly, Glint didn't like lick it as the first step, which is kind of interesting. Although we had just as part of our whole conversation with Carp, the little boy, we had in fact cautioned him against licking Grung. So maybe that was still on Glint's mind. Who knows? Oh, okay, it was in a vault full of random materials. Okay, cool. So that's where they got it. Yeah, something falls to the floor. Tabaxi cat mode activated. Exactly. That is legitimately exactly what happened, kids. So yeah, so that's interesting. So we have this book of logic stuff that Basil has that we don't know what it is. We have this lump of raw ore that was sent to us from the dwarves at Wave Echo Cave that we don't know what it is. Which is interesting. Oh, I should also mention, before Marcella left, because remember, Marcella was with the party because she's been searching for this dangerous axe of some kind that she wants to, well, the College of Lore wants to lock away and keep safe. And she had joined us initially because she suspected it might be maybe in Cryovane's hoard, ? So she tells Basil, like, hey, if you do find that axe, and you know what kind of axe it is, if you do find it, take it to, you know, insert person here at insert location here. So we at least know how to dispose of the axe if we do find it, because it's, you know, presumably because Marcella wanted to lock it away, it's highly cursed and somewhat dangerous and probably should be locked away. So Basil at least now knows what to do with it if we do happen to find it in Cryovane's hoard, by some chance. So there's that. Oh, right. That's the one. She was hired to return it to its original owner. That's right. Sorry, I got mixed up on my cursed axes. Yes, no, she was hired to return it to the original owner. That's right. What else? Is there anything else that I don't think so. Oh, Glint went to check on Darren, and it turned out Darren is no longer at the manse. Turned out he had asked to be fitted with not like a prosthetic, but not really a peg leg either. It's like a piece of metal that's like bent so that it's got a foot. Like, what I'm picturing is, have you ever seen an athlete that's a runner with a prosthetic where it's like that really like an engineered curved piece of metal to be able to like flex and stuff when they run? That's kind of what I'm picturing. Like, it's not fully a peg leg, but it's not like it looks like a foot. It's just kind of a curved piece of metal. So Darren had asked to have that attached and went home. Oh yes, the one that's getting locked away is the Storm Axe. That's right. Right, because that one is cursed, and also, you know, Talos problems. So yes, Marcella did take that one with her. Because she said she was going to lock it away, and that seems like a good idea to the rest of us, so hopefully she actually does. I'm sure she will. No problem. So Darren has gone home back to the orchard. So Glint's like, okay, I'll go check on him in the morning. And we all kind of retire to bed. In the morning, since we've all kind of determined that it's time to go take on Cryovane. We've taken out the blue dragon, we've taken out the green dragon. But more concerningly, the green kobold got away. So the concern is that Bram's concern, at least, is that the kobold that got away is gonna go tattle, and Cryovane will now be aware that we are actively slaying dragons. And Bram is concerned that that will cause Cryovane to, like, deliberately target Phandalin again. Like, actually focus in on Phandalin to try to get to us. And Bram does not want that. Because up until now, she's just kind of been randomly flying around, but from the party's point of view, it has felt like that more recently she's been focusing in, because more recently she's been attacking places that we know of and find out about, and she hit Phandalin twice in very close succession. So it feels like she's been ramping up, even though technically she hasn't actually, but we don't know that. So it's time to take on Cryovane. So Bram bites his tongue, and the next morning goes to the blacksmith to get his shoes put on. As a reminder, ages and ages and ages ago, like literally close to the very start of the campaign, Bram had purchased a set of horse cleats, which are essentially just horseshoes that have like crampons on them, so that he would have an easier time walking on ice, which presumably, if we're climbing Ice Spire Peak and fighting in a frozen fortress, there might be some ice. He's had these in his pack for ages, but Bram has this thing about he doesn't like humans touching his hooves. He's always been shooed by other centaurs before, and at this point, Randus makes a joke about the Kobold army that's been building since Session 0 and is led by the 5 Kobold Rangers, one for each chromatic dragon. Oh dear. Oh dear. I mean, again, if we knew where they were, that might be a thing we go take care of after Cryovane. But yeah, so Bram has this, it is in fact a phobia. Like, it's irrational. He kind of knows it's irrational, but he doesn't like the idea of a human touching his hooves. He's like, but they don't have hooves. How would they know how to treat hooves? He's always been shooed by centaurs before, but, you know, we're kind of getting desperate. We don't have time to find a centaur smith, so he bites his tongue and goes to the blacksmith in Phandalin to get the spiked shoes put on. Basil goes with him to, you know, hold his hand and, like, try to talk to him and distract him while the shoes are being put on. And, you know, just kind of pat his arm and there. It's very much like when you take a little kid to the doctor and they need to get, like, 3 or 4 vaccine shots, and they do not want to get their shots. It's like that, except, you know, shoes being put on a centaur. But while they're at the blacksmith, and while Basil is kind of looking around trying to find, you know, anything that can distract Bram, Basil happens to notice that laid out on one of the counters, there's a couple quivers, and in one of the quivers, it looks like there's 10 arrows, and in the other one, it looks like there's 10, like, crossbow bolts. And a little kid or a big Randus who has a needle phobia. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Bram's shoe thing is very much a phobia. So Basil notices these arrows and bolts and kind of points them out and goes, "Oh, what are these?" And the smith is like, "Oh, those. Well, they're bolts that never break and pierce through anything." And Basil's like, "Oh my god, really? They better actually pierce through anything." And the blacksmith's like, "Yep, I've tested them myself. I've fired them at stone, I've fired them at brick, I've fired them at, you know, lots of things. They never break." And Basil's like, "Oh my god, amazing. How much are they?" And they're 25 gold apiece. And so Basil's like, or no, sorry, they're 50 gold apiece for the two bundles, and each bundle has 10. And Basil's like, done, sold, we're going to fight a dragon. Bolts that'll pierce through anything is perfect. So he gets both the arrows and the bolts. Basil can use the bolts himself. Teagarn has a bow, so he might be able to use the arrows. Come here, baby. Come on. Come on. There we go. Good girl. Hey. Hey. There we go. Yeah, you were really mad when I got up this morning. You wanted more cuddles. I'm not surprised you came up. So Basil purchased both the arrows and the crossbow bolts, so we have those now. Reminder, Randus, you need to add those into D&D Beyond so that we can put them in the inventories. So that was a cool thing. So Bram has got the horse cleats on. Only a little, like, you know, sweaty and breathing hard after the ordeal. And then later in the morning, once Glint has woken up and, you know, oozed her way out of bed, she heads for the orchard to check in on Darren. And she goes to his house and sort of knocks on the door, but there's no answer. She kind of peers in all the windows and doesn't see him around, and kind of calls out a little bit like, Darren, and doesn't find him. But just as she's starting to get a bit concerned, she hears like a thud, 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 from behind her, and turns to find Darren coming from the direction of town with like a big basket over his shoulder. And she's like, Darren! And for a second, Darren is like, looks really pissed off and is like, what would you? And then kind of stops and goes, oh, Glint, I didn't know it was you. And Glint's like, are you okay? And Darren's like, yeah, it's just, you know, I'm not an invalid. I lost a foot, but I'm not like completely helpless, and I wish the townsfolk would realize that. You know, I'm about as healed as I'm going to get. So it seems like maybe the villagers have been trying to coddle him a little bit, but I'm sure it's only because they love him and are worried about him. But, you know, coddling is not what he needs. So Glint's like, okay, well, you know, I was just hoping to check on you to make sure you were doing okay. And he's like, yeah, I'm as good as it's gonna get, basically. And then kind of pauses and motions Glint closer and goes, well, but if you carry my basket for me, there might be breakfast in it for you. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Droop has had lots of random deliveries to the orchard. Yeah. From you know, very well-meaning people. But when it's everybody all at once, yeah, I can see why Darren feels the way he does. So Glint's like, ooh, yes, breakfast, absolutely. So she takes hold of the basket, takes it over, kind of glances inside, and it's, you know, it's groceries, it's vegetables, it's some fresh bread, it's, you know, some wrapped up cheeses. It's his grocery run. That's where he was. He was in town getting groceries. So Glint happily carries the basket back to the house for him, and, you know, helps him put the stuff away, and then sits down while he starts in on breakfast. Starts in on like a lovely vegetable pot pie. And as he's cooking, they chat a bit, and Glint's like, you know, once we're done with the dragon, if you'll accept the help, once we finish up with Cryovane, I want to come back and help you, you know, clean up the orchard, and then I want to help it grow again. Because remember, she has that plant growth spell, which would do a lot to help revive the orchard. And Darren's like, yeah, you know, I actually would really appreciate that. I've put a lot of work into this orchard, and to see it all destroyed like that was was really disheartening. And Glint's like, okay, cool. You know, once we finish with Cryovane, I'll come back and help you with the orchard. Because I really want to taste those apples again. And Darren kind of winks at her and goes, well, you know, I have a bit of a stash. And kind of nods over toward a carpet on the floor. And Glint, of course, being Glint, her ears perk up and her eyes brighten, and she goes diving for the rug. And when she moves it back, there is in fact a trapdoor under the rug. And when she goes down the trapdoor, she finds Darren's root cellar. You know, there's some preserved probably potatoes and carrots and things, and also piles of apples. You know, multiple big boxes of apples that are just kind of preserved and stacked in the corner. But also some other things. Like, you know, maybe a shelf with like a couple helmets on it, or like a gemstone or two, or like a sword leaning in the corner, you know, just kind of miscellaneous items? Question mark? And then beside it, there's like a stand that looks like it, you know, it's less dusty than everything else. It looks like it was more recently placed there, where it's like kind of a stand with like a circular depression in it about the right size for a circlet to be set in it. And Glint gets the impression that this is you know, it's stuff. So she grabs a couple apples. She doesn't touch anything, but she grabs a couple apples and goes back upstairs, and, you know, closes the trapdoor. And as she's, you know, sits back down and munches on her apples, she's like, Darren, you know, all that stuff you've got downstairs, would any of it be useful in fighting a dragon? And Darren kind of pauses for a second, and he's like, well, maybe, if you don't mind turning blue, or losing all of your hair, or, you know, kind of not so subtly hinting that all of the items downstairs are cursed, and that they're downstairs to keep them from falling into the wrong hands. Bye. Come back soon. So Glint's like, oh, okay, yeah, got it. And as, you know, had made note of that, like that case with the circular depression in it, she's like, so when we defeat Cryovane, we'll bring that circlet to you, and you'll keep it safe here. And Darren's like, yeah, just make sure you don't touch it with your bare skin. Because remember, we saw what happened to the last guy that touched it with his bare skin. He very rapidly aged and turned to dust. So Glint's like, right, yes, got it. We will not touch it with our bare skin, but we will bring it to you, and you can keep it safe. So that's kind of the plan at the moment. That once we get a hold of that Chardalyn crown again that Cryovane has, that we can bring it to Darren for safekeeping. Lost my place. I think I am. Great, because I got distracted by something coming up. There we go. Yes, okay. Yeah, so Glint says her goodbyes to Darren once breakfast is, they have a very nice breakfast. And then we all kind of meet back up at the town square. Bram in his shiny new clip-clop shoes. We do a little bit of shopping. Which, what we actually buy TBD, we need to determine that between sessions. But probably healing potions. Probably some extra vials for the vial lobber. And then we head out of town toward Icespire Peak. And as we reach sort of the foothill, well, as we reach the bottom of like the mountains proper, we've come across a half of a corpse, sort of. It's an extremely large corpse. We determined that it was a hill giant. But this hill giant has been completely frozen in place and then like bitten in half, essentially, or torn in half. And in one of its hands is like the broken off shaft of what was probably like a spear or a lance. It's got like, you know, a broken off wooden haft in one hand, and in the other hand it's got a leather sack that's encased in the ice. So that'll be interesting, and that is where we ended session. So next session we will pick up with investigating this corpse and its leather sack, and then proceeding forward toward Dragon. So yeah, it was a good session. It was a really good session. It was a lot of like RP, which was a lot of fun. Like as much as the combat is also fun, it's also great to just kind of have the character moments sometimes. So yeah, tune in next time. We are getting close to Dragon Gate. Whether or not the campaign continues after Cryovane is slain, well, that presumes we managed to slay Cryovane without getting eaten, which, you know, I'm hopeful about. I think we're about as prepared as we can be. I think we'll be okay, but you never know. Stuff could happen. I don't think it'll be a TPK, but we might lose people. We don't know. We'll have to find out. But we haven't really decided or talked about if the campaign will continue after Cryovane is dead. There is still stuff for the party to do. Like, we still have to take care of the straggling orcs at Wyvern's War. We do have that kobold army. We have the Drider. So at the very least, we'll probably continue at the very least until we can figure out what the heck is going on with that Drider that we let happen. But I don't know. We'll find out. So stay tuned. Because yeah, the original module that Randus built for us was the Icespire Peak module that was meant to end with Cryovane. But we've added so much extra stuff, and I feel like this party would be happy to continue, but that's a discussion we'll have to have. So, yeah. Oh, okay. I was wondering about that, Randus, because you mentioned that it was like bitten in half, but then also that it still had hands, so I was confused. So neither hand is attached to what's left of the body. They're only oriented correctly because it's been frozen in a giant block of ice. Okay, that makes more sense. Thank you for the clarification. That does make more sense. I was wondering how that would happen, because I was picturing like everything from the waist up gone, but then you mentioned hands. So I was like, wait, what? Conveniently bitten. Yeah, exactly. We were joking that our prediction for what's in the sack is another slime. Because when we found Mint, it was in a sack that was frozen in a block of ice by Cryovane. So maybe this sack that's been frozen in a block of ice by Cryovane just contains another slime. Which would be very funny. I would be here for that, honestly. But we'll have to find out. Or fun. We'll finish these 5 stitches and then probably take my break. Because that was a nice long recap. I don't think I missed anything. You're like, oh, I did miss something. So I did mention how Glint had that discussion with Arendiao and resolved that she was going to talk to Tigarn. Well, later in that evening, Arendiao did indeed switch with Tigarn because she wanted to go sleep on a comfy bed in Ravnica. So Glint, you know, kind of struck up a conversation with Tigarn and was just like, hey, you know, I hadn't quite realized before what it might be like for you just kind of being shuffled between dimensions willy-nilly at the whims of someone else. So, like, are you okay? Is there anything we can do to help? And Tigarn kind of just sighed and was like, well, you know, going back and forth, I guess, is better than being stuck here, because at least now when I'm on Ravnica, I can kind of continue my investigations at least a little bit. So it's, you know, it's better than being stuck, but you know, it's not ideal. But I don't think there's anything that you can do short of cutting off the finger that the ring is on. As a reminder, it's like there's a ring that bonds Arendiao and Tigarn together. They're both wearing one, and that's what causes the connection between them. So short of like cutting off fingers, the only way that we could kind of fix the situation would be, there is an omen path that leads to Ravnica. However, the problem is it's like a mile in the air. So it's too far off the ground for a fly spell to reach. So we would have to find some way for sustained flight to be able to get either Tigarn or Arendiao up to the omen path. Because essentially, if we manage to get Tigarn and Arendiao in the same place at the same time, they could like bring the rings together, and then the rings would become inert and the bond would be broken. And also that would allow Arendiao what she wants, which is to stay in Ravnica. Or, you know, access to Ravnica at least. So Glint's kind of like, okay, well, you know, we don't have a solution to that right now, but I'll think about it. I'll try to find something. And if you think of anything else, or if you need help with anything, please let us know, because, you know, we want you to know that you have friends and support when you're here on Faerun. So that was a thing, and also led to an interesting discussion on whether or not we could convince Cryovane to fly through the Omen Path and make her Ravnica's problem. But unfortunately, the Omen Path the portal is too small for the dragon to fit through. Which is unfortunate. But I think it would be very funny if we just sent her through and let Niv Mizzet deal with her. So yeah, that was a discussion I missed, but I don't think I missed anything else. But with that, I am going to take a quick break. If I did miss anything else that somebody thinks of in the meantime, let me know, and I can cover it when I get back. But everybody get up, stretch, move around, grab refills on your drinks, etc. And I will be back in a couple minutes.
Alright, we have returned. Hello, friends.
Hi, Kuma. Welcome in. You indeed have perfect timing. You just missed the D&D recap. You have rejoined this stream already in progress. Alright, where was I? Here.
I bring her back to the stream. For those who missed her.
She will be unhappy. Does not stay when you put her here. Complaining. Hey.
Little complaints, big purrs.
Yeah. Thank you.
She's just looking at me like, yes, I'm comfy and happy, monster. Right?
Mm-hmm. Ooh, soup is simmering. Of soup. Ooh, Spanish chorizo and potato. Tasty. With a cream base or a broth base? The moment it's broth. Tasty. Oh, and then after 15 minutes you add the cream. I see, so it will be both. Excellent. Bath time?
Hi. You good?
May yet decide to come back. Okay, then this is 8. One further. Okay. Yeah, the cat got up back to big blanket. At least for now. On to the Digivice section. We are trucking along. We're getting close to halfway, actually. Both halfway through the blanket and half cat hair by volume. clearly needs more Sasha. So the thing is, she will not shed on this blanket directly because she doesn't sit on yarn blankets. I don't know what it is. And like, so yes, this blanket is knit, but it's like a much smaller, it's like thread yarn, whereas this is like worsted weight yarn. I don't know if that makes the difference, but like my crochet projects, she never, like, she doesn't sleep on them. She doesn't even really like to step on them. If she wants to, like, if I'm working on a crochet project, like on the couch, and she wants to get from like one side of me to the other side, rather than like walking over my crochet, she will sit and yell at me until I lift the project so that she doesn't have to step on it. Which is like just courtesy. But with this cat, it's strange. Oh yes, the other important thing that happened during D&D yesterday that I forgot to mention is that Merlin's dog kept sneezing, and it was very cute. I assume it was the dog because they were quite loud sneezing. I don't think the cat sneezes that loud. Probably. Excellent. Mark my pattern. All right. And do some untangling. This is getting ridiculous. You come here. Okay. No, I'm not. Okay, there we go. That's better. Okay, that is immediately better. One, two, three, four. Soup! Enjoy soup. I will enjoy vicariously because that sounds like very tasty soup.
And one.
That is another row complete. And now we do what I term return typewriter zing very slowly. All right. Flip this baby over. Okay. Fine. Everything is fine. When I flip it, it gets more and more unwieldy. You might expect. Out. God. It's fine. for more counting. Are over. Okay, so 3. 9. 3, 4. 4. 1, 2. 1. There. Okay, yes, I think that's correct. Thank you, Randus. That's so many numbers. I mean, eventually, if you just keep naming numbers, eventually one of them will be right. Statistically speaking, eventually. Hey, Kara, reminder that you have tea. Made you some. And just And now we flip. Good. Flip. Flip. Cannot begin to emphasize how much blanket there is, and we're not quite halfway done. There is going to be so much blanket by the end of this. I am going to be swearing so much. This middle bit is definitely going to be the most difficult though, because the Digivice has so many different colors in it. Like the crests are all monocolor, but the Digivice has a bunch of different colors in it. So it's going to make the patterning very complicated for a little while. Once the Digivice is done, it's going to get much, much easier for like the last quarter or third of the blanket. It's just getting through the next Digivice bit that's going to be a pain in the butt. Next, like, 20 rows are going to be absolute hell, but then after that, it'll be fine again. Truth is, the hell never ends, it only changes. I mean, honestly, you're probably not wrong. Kitty out in the hallway crunching on kibble. You hear a little kitty crunching on kibble. Sometimes you will recognize my voice and just come in and investigate. Other times she does not. Sasha! No, still crunching. Yeah, her kibble is very loud. It is not hard to miss her kibble crunch. Baby. Come in and say hi again. Hi. Sasha. I know, there's a lot of stuff in the way. You can get up here. There we go. Hi. Also, congrats, Merlin. Yay, certification. Sasha does congratulate you with her present. Nice, sweet. Maximus is now staring at the screen. Oh dear. Those other cats, though, he's been around Piper, right? He at least knows what a cat is. Although, to be fair, Sasha looks a lot more like him than Piper does. Oh, big yawn. bath time. There's been a lot of Sasha this stream. Which I'm sure none of you are complaining about whatsoever. A good girl. Probably. Hello? What are you doing? You find something to play with? A knife. No, she has plenty of those. They are attached to her paws. Maybe. What are you crying for? Are you starving to death? Uh-huh. Okay. Mer. Come on. Hi. Giant hunk of fur in your mouth. Allowed to eat that. Thank you. How much Sasha today? I know. I'm in the wrong spot. I'll be coming downstairs soon. I know. How dare I not be exactly where you want me to be? Sasha decides when the stream ends. Apparently, she's done it before. I mean, I keep saying Sasha's the real star. I'm just filling in the time between her appearances. Her appearances seem to garner much more attention than mine. Not true, we're also here for the D&D recap. You know what, that's fair. Aw, I appreciate that. I appreciate that, Kits. Still Sunday vibes is exactly what I'm going. Warm little fur lumpy. Furry lump affection. Cute. You know, if you let us brush that part, it wouldn't get so itchy. Get rid of all that loose fur for you. Goodbye. And I suppose that's it. So, yeah, thank you everyone for joining me and Sasha today. It is, in fact, right about 2 o'clock. I am actually hungry, so I'm gonna go find lunch. And I suppose go sit in the seat where Sasha expects me to sit so that she'll stop being grumpy. But yeah, thank you all for joining me. Thank you to my followers, my subscribers, anyone who was just lurking. I really appreciate it. Chill Sunday vibes are my goal, so if I'm accomplishing that, I am happy. But until the next time I get to speak with you, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Try to keep positive, and I will talk to you all in the future. Bye.